Welcome to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On Sunday, September 11th at 8:46 in the morning, I will begin the ceremony for the September 11th Remembrance. This will commemorate 15 years since the attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and the field in Pennsylvania. The Elizabeth residents that perished that day, 6 of them, their names will be mentioned, as well as an event held at the memorial located at the Elizabeth train station in the Midtown Pedestrian Plaza located on West Grand Street. If you need more information concerning this event or any other event in the city of Elizabeth, please call our public information office at 908-820-4124. Please stay with us after these messages, where I'm going to be joined by Miss Lisa Barron of the Army Corps of Engineers.
We have some of the finest teachers in the country. And then they graduate. Kane University.
Welcome back to Our City, where I'm joined by Miss Lisa Barron of the Army Corps of Engineers. Lisa, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you've been on the show quite a few times sometimes, especially during Estuary Day and the harbor revitalization. But today we're going to talk about some other things that have happened, because I understand that there's a lot of key milestones that the Army Corps of Engineers has reached, not only in our city, but for the entire estuary and the harbor.
Yeah, there's a lot of big milestones that I want to highlight, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on to talk about that. I love to come on and talk about what the Corps of Engineers is doing in the region and in the estuary.
How long are you with the Army Corps now?
I'm only coming up on 9 years.
9 years, wow.
Yeah, but before that I was one of the local sponsors with the state of New Jersey on projects that the Corps did for about 10 years before that. So in the harbor for about more than 20. But and so it's really great to see some of these programs actually come to fruition, come to completion, and one of the biggest civil works programs or projects in the nation, the Harbor Deepening Project, the dredging of the channels for 50 feet. On September 1st, just in a week and a half, the New York District and the Port Authority is officially announcing the completion of the harbor deepening. So all of the channels will have been deepened to 50 feet, and there'll be a big celebration.
Tell us the importance of that 50 feet deepening, because it's for the future commerce and for the jobs. And please tell us the importance of that 50 feet.
Yeah, and here we are in the Port of New York and New Jersey, and so we have 6 terminals that accept the big, large ships that come in from all over the world. And so it's the economic engine for the region. And so not only from all the jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs that it provides, but bringing in the goods for 23 million people in this particular region in the most cost-effective and reliable way of bringing in those goods. And so just for that reason, it's very, very important. And the larger ships, post-Panamax ships, need a draft more than 48 feet. And so the dredging, the harbor deepening construction project started back in 2004. And so it's taken a long time, more than 20 contracts, $1.2 billion of investment. It was originally slated for $1.6 billion, so we got it done $400 million cheaper. But to be able to celebrate bringing in those larger ships, got to keep the prices down on all the goods that come into our region that everyone relies on so much.
Talk about the 50-foot dredging before we move on, and that, because not only the 50-foot dredging is important, but in 2004, people were only talking about 40-foot. And the Port Authority and the Army Corps made a decision to go to 50-foot at that stage.
Yeah, and actually, I remember my first day on the job at New Jersey DOT was to read the feasibility report for the harbor deepening. That was in 1999. So it was to go to 50 foot. And so it keeps, originally the harbor was 19 feet deep, historically. And so as the ships get larger and larger, it just makes sense. And you look at the economics and the benefit cost ratios. And so going to 50 feet and basically the construction was then consolidated, and it ended up going to 50 feet to get that done in a more cost-effective way. And so they managed to consolidate some of the contracts and get it done as quickly and efficiently as possible.
And that 50-foot channel runs, talk to our, underneath the Bayonne Bridge. Yeah, how does that 50-foot run, in what direction?
So the 50-foot channel deepening, there's 36 miles of channels. So coming in from the Atlantic Ocean, up Ambrose Channel, and so you've got Staten Island and and New York on your right. And so coming up through Ambrose Channel, Anchorage Channel, up to Port Jersey, and then you're going through the Kill Van Kull and over to the New Jersey side of the house, down the Arthur Kill, so now we're in your region, to the New York Container Terminal, and up into Newark Bay. And so we've got 6 terminals, and so we're looking at Port Elizabeth, Port Newark, and the New York Container Terminal that are really, and Port Jersey, really bringing that commerce and those particular containers, our cars, our chocolate, all of those things that people rely on.
I noticed you
every
mentioned
day.
chocolate.
Chocolate.
So Lisa, it's also right in front of our marina pier because there's a terminal across the way in Staten Island. So for people who used to be able to walk across the water, that's 50 foot deep out there.
Yeah, now it's 50 foot deep. And so that was just an incredible milestone. And I think this celebration that's going to occur on the 1st will have all of the congressional representatives and can't thank everyone enough for that financial commitment that has basically allowed us to complete that program, especially to your citizens as well, because we had some challenges in the Arthur Kill area, because not all the material, there's all different types of material that we have to dredge, and some of it is hard rock. And so I always like to thank the communities.
The initial dredging, Lisa, in the 90s, when they initially started, before they agreed to go to 50 feet, some of that dredge material wound up as being fill for the Jersey Gardens Mall.
Yeah, and I always like to talk about the beneficial use of dredge material, and that was one of the key aspects where we really can use the sediment as a resource and not as a waste. And so you've got all the different types of sediments that you have. And so whether it was stabilized with cement and put it under the Jersey Gardens Mall parking lot, or whether it was used to cap the Bayonne landfill. And there's a lot of landfills around, so utilizing dredge material to cap landfills and stop the seeping of contamination into the harbor. And now there's Bayonne Golf Club, if you go golfing there.
I have played there.
Yeah, it's beautiful there. And so 4 million cubic yards of dredge material went there, as well as some of the sand gone to Lincoln Park and the Hackensack, where we build wetlands and marsh islands out in Jamaica Bay, or we take the rock after it's been blasted and create reefs, fishing reefs. And so, or if it's sand as well, putting it on beaches for beach nourishment or for coastal storm risk management. And right now, following Sandy, that is incredibly critical and an important mission.
Do you know how many total cubic yards were taken out at 50-foot dredging in the 36 miles?
The 50-foot dredging project, it's more than 50 million cubic yards. So, and I always say there's probably closer to 70 million or 60-some million when you calculate all of the operation and maintenance dredging that also occurs, but we're so proud to say that all of it was used for beneficial use. And so it's hard to appreciate that volume, 50 million cubic yards of material, but if you think about a cubic yard as being like a washing machine size, or that kind of volume filling up the Empire State Building 40 times over, or a football field up the height of Mount Everest. I mean, it's a lot of volume that we had to manage.
So all of it was reused. It wasn't dumped somewhere.
No, and when the mud dump site closed off of Sandy Hook, the historic area remediation site, that was capped with clean material. So clean material went there, and then depending on what type of material it was, whether it needed to be stabilized, because we are in a very industrialized urban area in the estuary, and so, but we've made it a really, really important point and priority, especially the state of New Jersey, been a leader now New York, but taking that material and stabilizing it and capping a lot of landfills around.
So Lisa, talk to us. You've spent a lot of time on the commerce and the necessity of the commerce and the big ships that are going to be coming out of the Panama Canal over the next 24 months. So spending time on that, but it's also your job and you do it well. How do you balance the environmental concerns as well at the port?
And that has been my primary role at the Corps of Engineers, where I manage a lot of the restoration program that's with the Hudson River and Estuary. So it's really important that we balance the economics and the economic revitalization with the NAV program, with the restoration program, making sure that we have a healthy environment, as well as the infrastructure protection and hurricane protection that we focus on. But primarily the ecosystem restoration program, that nexus of the beneficial use, really doing those great things for the environment, and really have been lucky to be involved in project the use of that beneficial, the use of that material, but as well as developing the plan for restoration. So we have what's called the Hudson-Raritan Estuary Feasibility Study, and call it a program where we're looking at planning restoration in the entire estuary. And part of that was the comprehensive restoration plan that was developed first. It was drafted in 2009. And
you read all this stuff too.
well, I helped write it too.
Yeah,
yeah, we have a big team and a lot of people that worked on it. But it's the plan for 25-mile radius around the whole Statue of Liberty. So we had 8 planning regions, and the city of Elizabeth is actually in 2 of the planning regions. So the Arthur Kill and the Kill Van Kull, and then as well as Newark Bay, Passaic River, and Hackensack River. And so 2 of the 8 planning regions. And so really figuring out what's the consensus vision for restoration in the estuary, working with all the partners, so stakeholders, federal, state, local agencies, and outlining what needs to be done, what restoration should be focused on, how many potential projects there are, and work in a coordinated way to get it done. And that's what's been really important to move that plan forward. And we just released version 1.0. So you release it draft, and it took 6 years. Now, granted, Sandy kind of hit in the middle of it where we were about to release it. Then we updated it relative to hurricane protection and looking at all of this restoration and these opportunities as nature-based features, natural and nature-based features. We have an acronym called NNBFs, and you can look at all of these restoration projects and wetlands and oyster reefs and all of these other types of green technology, green infrastructure to help protect the shorelines and make our habitat and our shorelines more resilient, and do it in a green way, and really look at green and gray mixed solutions.
So in dealing with the environment, you work with groups in the city of Elizabeth like Future City,
yes,
and other groups around the region. Tell us how the works with Future City helps you and helps educate the residents of our community.
Well, I love when you have your program, Estuary Day and Environmental Day, and I love working with Michelle McBean and Keene University and all the partners that put on those events. And it gives us a venue to really reach the students. And when you see almost 300 students from your area, that I think they're just riveted by what we have to say and educate them.
Of course,
when they come into the classroom, and we tell them not only what the Corps is doing and how when they get out of college, give me a call, and we're always looking for great people at the Corps, but to get them excited about the field, get them interested in what is right outside their back door that a lot of them don't even know, where they look at the industrial environment that's here, this resource that is the Harbor Estuary, and what it has to offer and how they can contribute to cleaning up the environment and participating in just what they can do, talk to their parents, and what they can do when they get out of school.
These kids love it. These kids report back, and they're actually, when we go to the Peterstown Center or wherever else we hold these events, these kids really pay attention. Do you notice that, Lisa?
I think they do, and I think that they get interested. Now I always ask, okay, how many people are interested in the field of science or environmental science? And yet very few people that raise their hand, sadly. But then I say afterwards, after the half an hour that they spend or 20 minutes they spend with me, I get a few new hands, and I get really excited about that. But at least they are surprised by what they've heard, and hopefully have an appreciation for what's
So the restoration efforts, Lisa, that you were talking about, funding is always a big issue, and the funding's not totally in place. And then even in 2004 for the 50-foot dredging, Congress had to keep appropriating the money.
Right.
So what's the plan to go forward with restoration and funding dollars, and how do you get there based on your reporting?
Right, and so the Comprehensive Restoration Plan was that first document. We call it Everyone's Plan. So everyone can work towards leveraging their programs and their resources to implement restoration. One of the key reports that the Corps of Engineers and the New York District has to produce is a feasibility report and environmental assessment. And so we are almost finished with our feasibility report. And so if you look at, here's 297 restoration opportunities in the restoration plan, we have to look at those restoration projects and figure out what are the best to move forward with first with our partners, and design them and recommend detailed cost estimates and designs. And so we have been working on 33 projects, 33 of those almost 300, where we've focused on, and they vary through the whole Hudson River and Estuary study area. So there are five sites in the Passaic River, 2 sites on the Hackensack, so those are over here, and then there's oyster reefs and marsh islands and different restoration projects over on the New York side that we are recommending in a report. That report is going to be released in a couple of months, and what is key is that we're going to need authorization from Congress. We're going to need what our normal process is, we have a Water Resources Development Act, a WRDA, and that will authorize the construction of these first rounds of projects. And so once we produce a chief's report, Water Resource Development Act authorizes it, and then we need appropriation. So just as critical as it was to get that funding for the harbor deepening and navigation, we really hope and pray that we have the commitment of the restoration and making sure that we have the funding that comes in to
and the funding debate that will go on. You'll also be in competition with other areas around the country, and or get the other areas around the country included in the same legislation.
And that is a real challenge for our area. The New York, New Jersey estuary is very expensive. Of course, we all live in this area. It's expensive to live, it's expensive to do work. And because it's urban, I mean, one of the key things, we're competing nationally. And so it is hard for us. When you look at nationally, we have to make the case, why is it important to restore the New York, New Jersey harbor estuary and this urban environment, and how it really helps more than 23 million people in this area compared to other areas in the United States. But it is a big challenge. And
have you been to other estuaries, Lisa, besides this area?
Yeah.
And the challenge,
Chesapeake Bay.
I know, but the challenges there are similar, or
I think other areas have been really lucky on the ecosystem restoration side. Chesapeake Bay has executive order, and it's been very funded, well funded. The Everglades program, I used to model our program off of the Everglades. We used to think, okay, let's have this program, and we're on the verge. We have to be successful with this restoration feasibility, because this is our mechanism to have federal dollars come in to this region. And so I look at other restoration programs to see, okay, what worked, what didn't work, so that we can really look at lessons learned and ensure that.
Lisa, if you had to rank order the importance of estuaries in commerce, can you do that? I mean,
it's really hard.
Right.
You can't, economics versus ecosystem, that's why they have to be balanced. You have to have the revitalization of an area. You're talking about jobs, you're talking about people's lives every day, but it's also incredibly important to have a healthy environment, that we can not only utilize this area and for ecotourism, and that's one thing, but we want to be able to go fishing, and with fishery resources that have healthy fish, without fish advisories, people that can, have healthy water to go swimming, and in all of those types of aspects that are really important for this area. Estuaries are the most productive ecosystems in the world, and we have to really take care of them. And it's really hard. It's a balance.
Lisa, we're going to run some commercials and we'll be right back. Please stay with us after these messages, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
We're an American original, dependable, historic, nuanced, with all the comforts of home, even when you're just visiting. So we're celebrating for all that we've left untouched and all that we've changed. A place where the past meets the future. So consider this your invitation.
We've been celebrating here in Elizabeth for 350 years, and we're just getting started. Welcome back to our city, where I'm joined by Miss Lisa Barron of the Army Corps of Engineers. And Lisa, one of the things you touched on was the event on September 1st, where the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and the Army Corps of Engineers and elected officials all came together to celebrate the 50-foot dredging that started on September 4th. Everybody played a role.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there were so many people that played a role. And so not only do you have the Corps and the Port Authority that paid 50-50, for moving forward. But the state of New Jersey as well put in a lot of money as well for the Port Jersey dredging. But getting that federal funds and to the region, I mean, we couldn't do it without all of the congressionals and elected officials that will hopefully be at the meeting on the 1st and the celebration. And so that is really critical. I mean, $1.2 billion that was invested to make this work.
And because of that dredging, Lisa, we see the Bayonne Bridge being raised, or the new egress and ingress.
Yeah.
While that's not your bailiwick, they have to raise that as well in order to take advantage of the 50-foot dredging.
Right. I mean, as you have these post-Panamax ships, so coming in and utilizing the 50-foot channels, going into Port Newark and as well as heading down into the Arthur Kill, it's important that they have air draft that's got to occur as well when they go under. And so the Port Authority that is the Port Authority's project, so I haven't been involved at all in the raising of the Bayonne Bridge, but that was a necessary activity that needed to occur in order to really obtain all of the benefits of getting fully loaded container ships to come in through the region and take advantage of that.
And you can
depth.
see it though when you're out there.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating how they're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually haven't been out. Now,
yeah.
I guess I will see at the event, and because the event will be in Bayonne, and then we'll be doing a harbor inspection there. But not only from the standpoint of, if you just talk about money and the commitment of bringing in those funds, but so many other people played a part. So whether it was the beneficial use of dredge material, so the state of New Jersey paying the differential for really utilizing all the sediment that came out beneficially, whether it was for Bayonne Golf Club or the mall or Lincoln Park that occurred, or in New York where we also utilized the beneficial use of that dredge material. All of that investment that occurred to really utilize the harbor deepening, take advantage of the harbor deepening project and that material that could be used as a resource, but also grassroots efforts and local individuals. And so people like Future City and Michelle McBean and the meetings that you hosted to bring the communities together to understand, and the outreach, just to understand, so that the communities knew what was going on, knew how important it is for this deepening project to occur.
And some of those meetings we had, and we received follow-up phone calls when they would hear the blasting at night or early morning. Some complained their house was shaking. I mean, you investigated all of that as well, and also got back to all of these people.
Yeah, the Corps had a hotline, and so whenever there was a call, a complaint, there was investigations that occurred. And
the noise issue, you can tell our viewers, is now done, right?
Yeah, everything was done. And so, the dredging that did occur was done during hours that hopefully people weren't sleeping. I know people have night shifts and stuff like that, that they have to, so that was inevitable, but it's all of that is done. So the amount of drilling and blasting that needed to occur to take out that rock that was in the Arthur Kill area and the Kill Van Cole area, that's all finished. So now what we're going to be doing is dredging's not over. So you have this big investment in deepening the 50 feet.
You can't let it seep back.
No, it's exactly. You have all these tributaries that make up our wonderful estuary that bring a lot of suspended solids. So overland runoff and the tribs, all the soils that come over, and they as the tides come in and out, soil and sediment goes into our channels, and we have to maintain them. And so we're going to still need an investment, and our operations division and our operation and maintenance needs to take place in the future to continue to dredge those channels to where we finish the construction at that 50-foot depth to then maintain it.
So let me ask you another crazy question. Did you find anything in there? Any Revolutionary War stuff or anything else in the dredging, or any stories about anything?
Oh,
any automobiles?
Oh, I'm sure, there's a lot of contracts where you do debris removal in advance, and the material that goes to one of our facilities where we had to process the dredge material, and you're taking out So if you think about the dredging, we use all different types of dredging techniques and equipment. So whether it's a big excavator after you drill and blast, or you're talking about an environmental bucket that is, with more of our fine silty sediments. So you're talking about a bucket that's got a close on things. So you're going to be pulling out the cars in advance, but of course you're going to find things. You're going to find a lot of interesting things that occur. But then when it goes to a facility, and then it goes through screens and processed, the material. A lot of the material was processed. And
where were those facilities? Do you know?
Yeah, let's see. We had a few in Kearney. And
so it was close.
Yeah. And that's what's really important. You need these operations and these private entities that really are going to invest in the facilities, because once you dredge and you put the material on a barge, and you want to be able to take it to a facility that's close by that's going to process that material, and then it will be taken and placed, whether it's going to close a landfill or taken for a transportation project. Just different beneficial uses. And I
so, Lisa, what do you do next? I mean, you're part of the Estuary Day and Environmental Day, and you've been there. But now that this big project is over and there's a maintenance thing, is there a new big project?
Is there a new big project? I am really hoping that our new big project is going to be the restoration program, because that will 33 different projects basically that we're trying to authorize for restoration, and that's one of our future to continue that mission of the Corps. We have to be very successful with that. But there's also the Sandy program. Is granted, that's been really being stressed and focused on for the last few years since Sandy hit, and the recovery and the investigations that needed to take place to figure out how to solve the real issues. What are the solutions for our shoreline so that we can protect against future hurricanes and storm events? And so there's going to be there's a couple of new feasibility studies that are on the books, and a lot of flood control projects that are still ongoing. We have a fairly large civil works program that's moving forward, and so.
If we build oyster beds, will you be able to eat them, or it's just for another purpose?
Well, hopefully someday we will be able to, but part of the Hudson Raritan Estuary, we're recommending five oyster reef locations, and one of them is Naval Station Earl. And so where those locations are, especially in the New Jersey side, it's at a very highly secure facility so that the monitoring is occurred, because they're not in harvestable waters. And so that's one of the key things. The restoration of oysters is for restoration purposes. Cleaning up the water, providing the habitat for fish and invertebrates, and really improving, we call them ecosystem engineers, the oysters. But I mean, the Baykeeper and Hudson River Foundation, they are working really hard to bring back oysters. I mean, New York was the oyster capital of the world.
Years ago, yeah.
Years ago, yeah. So we want to.
Lisa, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on the show.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate all of your efforts and your work. Your fascinating job, I could tell you that.
Thank you.
And thank you for keep coming back. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
For Miss Lisa Barron of the Army Corps of Engineers, I'm Chris Bolwage, and we'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.
Offering everything you could want from college, including a life. Kane University.